Welcome to the Road to Welvil podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Terrell. Together, we will explore our own wellness journeys, nurturing body, mind, and spirit. Join me as I talk to top wellness professionals from all over the world with a wide range of backgrounds and specialties. I invite you to discover, discuss, and design your own path on the road to Welvil. Welcome, listener. Today I am so excited to be chatting with Holly Padove. Holly Padove of Balanced Living is a clinical Ayurvedic specialist, yoga teacher, and Qigong instructor with over 35 years of training and experience in health and wellness. Based out of one of my favorite places in the whole world, Arroyo Grande, California, she serves both locals and clients from around the world through her in-person and online offerings. Today, we're going to talk about her personal journey towards becoming the powerhouse behind Balanced Living, as well as talking about Ayurveda, yoga, Qigong, and Yoga Nidra. These subjects are something that I'm very curious about, particularly Yoga Nidra. I started dabbling in it a few years back, and I really love it as a technique for relaxing and getting more in tune with my inner self. I was just sharing with Holly today, actually, that I had a rough night last night for many reasons, and I just started practicing Yoga Nidra. I think it's because I knew I was going to be talking to you today too, Holly. I thought, okay, this is going to be a practice that's going to help me. And I had a headache from just lack of sleep, and when I came out of the Yoga Nidra, the headache was gone. So that was amazing. So I'm super excited to dive in and learn some more about all these things with you, Holly.
Wonderful. Well, me too.
Welcome. So I like to start at the beginning of your journey. And I think a lot of people on this healing path have an early event or situation that sets them on this path to become to sort of heal yourself and then become a healer. So I was wondering, was there an early event in your life that sparked your interest in holistic health?
Yeah, well, really the way it started is, and I listened to one of your other interviews, so I thought it was an interesting coincidence that I had an eating disorder when I was in college, and it was quite that I was bulimic, and it was quite bad. It really affected my life, and I felt really lost from and out of control, and I didn't know how to handle it, and so I started a search, like, what is going on with me? How can I work with this? And so that's kind of when my focus started to go internal a little bit more, because I realized something was off. So what was really helpful is somehow the book Handbook to Higher Consciousness by, I think the author is Ken Keyes or Kesey, ended up in my hands. And it was a real eye-opener for me. How we react to life creates our reality, that you could respond rather than react. I'm not sure if that was in that book or another one, but that book just opened up a whole world for me. So I started to look at things different, and I started to slowly heal from my eating disorder. It probably lasted about 5 years or so. And then I started to discover meditation. So I had graduated from college, and I wasn't in the holistic health field at all. I was in public relations, actually. I didn't think it was my true calling, but when you're 18, you just grab whatever you feel might be a fit.
Yep.
And so I learned to meditate, and then it just started to unfold from there. And then I realized I started to study herbs, and then I turned my eating disorder into more of a passion for nutrition. Instead of being obsessed with food in the negative, or eating and all that in the negative way, I flipped the coin, and I became super interested in eating healthy and being well. So that's how that all started. And then at about age 30, I went to massage school. And in massage school, you don't just study massage, you study all kinds of different modalities. And then again, that door opened a little bit more. And then I started to follow the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, and that encompasses yoga as well. I mean, the asanas, it's all yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's how I started my whole journey, and then the doors opened from there.
Yeah. So Yogananda, like the self-realization fellowship, right?
Exactly. I actually follow him through the teachings of another organization called Ananda. But yes, it's
Okay.
the same. It's the same Paramahansa Yogananda. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always felt very drawn to him. I loved his book, The Autobiography of a Yogi. In fact, I can't remember if it was in another podcast or another conversation I was having with people, but actually, I think it was just a conversation with a friend about how he had given that book to his son. His son is now, I think, like 19 or 20. And he just felt like that was a good introduction to a different way of thinking. You know, he thought maybe his son was ready for that as kind of an introductory text.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And it's funny because I first read that book in my early to mid 20s as well. It was another one of those books that I don't know where I grabbed it from, but it was definitely influential as well.
yeah.
So that helped me. It helped me, between the meditation and starting to do more yoga, and it helped me to become more self-aware. And then that opened the doors. And then I realized my real love and passion is health and wellness. It's wasn't what I studied in college. It was more. So I started to just add more feathers to my cap in that arena, and that's until it became something that I do full time, and it's actually my whole lifestyle as well. I walk my talk most of the time.
Yeah, I know.
We're all
None of
human,
us are
right?
perfect, right? Yeah. But
Exactly.
it's always like a yeah, like a conscious effort to
Yeah.
do your best.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing your story about, coming into yoga and meditation. How did that lead you to Ayurveda? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So I am 59 years old right now,
You
and
look
let's
amazing.
thank you.
Could I just say
It's,
that?
it's the Ayurveda, and
Yeah.
treating
You're
me
doing
well.
something right.
Considering my kittens woke me up at 5 a.m., I'm doing okay. So, um, so Ayurveda. So I hit when I reached 40, or about 39, 40. I was going through a divorce, and I'm happily remarried now. And I felt like, some of those big junctures in your life when you have a big upset, they provide a catalyst for a lot of growth, I find. So that divorce was, in many ways, the best thing that ever happened to me. And, I was divorced, I was turning 40, and I had a successful PR business. And I was started to teach yoga on the side, was doing massage here and there in the evenings. And I thought, what do I really want to do with my life? I don't want to be doing this business for much longer. I want to be doing something that really feeds my soul. And I think I was reading Yoga Journal or something, and I read an article about Ayurveda. And it was just like a light bulb went off. This was it, because Ayurveda encompasses everything, not just how you eat, or not just, hey, what's my dosha or your constitution, but it gives you all kinds of tools to live your life in the healthiest, most balanced way possible. So it incorporates massage, it incorporates nutrition and yoga and, good sleep and everything that I was already, meditation, of course. So everything that I was already interested in and had studied piecemeal. So I decided to make a jump and to study Ayurveda. And I went to a 2-year program called the California College of Ayurveda and studied for 2 years before becoming a clinical Ayurvedic specialist. And that was in 2004 when I graduated.
I've always been so drawn to Ayurveda, and something I love you kind of touched on too is how it kind of addresses all the senses, even like smells, right? Like there's certain oils
Exactly.
for balancing
Oh,
things, or
absolutely.
sounds, like listening to music and sounds and things. And I love that it encompasses all of our senses.
Exactly. You hit it right on the spot. So Ayurveda works with all of our senses, because so first off, Ayurveda means the science of life. And some people that don't understand it might think it sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's actually super practical. And it's based on 5,000 years of, it's been around for 5,000 years. And it's based on real practical scientific methodology in many ways. But the way we interact with the world as humans is through our senses. So Ayurveda helps us to bring balance in through what we would call five sense therapy. So your sense of taste would be what you bring in. So first, we address helping people to bring more balance through what they eat. So every body is different. You're different than me. So I'm not going to say that you should eat the same thing as me. One diet does not fit all. So each person's a different constitution or dosha. And you may have heard the terms Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So depending on your dosha, then we address the sense of taste or eating through a diet that's particular for you and more balancing for you. And then we address the sense of smell through essential oils. So for example, I put on some essential oil this morning, a blend called Centered, because I knew I'd be talking to you. So I use them all the time. Even like if you're using sage, a lot of people use sage. That is working with the sense of smell to help uplift you. And the sense of smell is very important.
I put on some frankincense today before we started talking. Yeah. I like it because it's kind of grounding, but it's also very kind of like spiritual, because every time before I start an interview, I just ask, you know, God, universe, like, what do you want to come through for me? So I find that frankincense is good for me in that kind of balancing way.
Exactly. I think I use some frankincense is also good for sleep and lots of stuff. So you can use it at nighttime too.
I should have used it last night.
Yeah, I use them.
Next time.
Yeah. Let's see. So sense of smell, and then sight. So even the colors. So I wore red today intentionally because I know it's more of a warmer, fiery color, and it would help. It's more stimulating color. So to help me to focus more and be more stimulated and focused.
I noticed that we're both kind of wearing the same color. I have more colors on, but I noticed that. I was like, ooh, we were feeling the same thing this morning.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And even the colors that you paint your house or your room has different. So blue, for example, is cooling and calming. This room, you can't really tell, but it's green, and that's more of a neutral kind of balancing tone. So colors, so we went through taste, we went through smell, colors. Touch is balancing. So in Ayurveda, for example, we recommend self-massage called Abhyanga with lots of juicy oils to help work with your nervous system and just for overall balance. So what sense am I missing now?
Hearing, maybe?
Oh, hearing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's really important. So your sense of sound. So all your senses can either bring in balance or imbalance. So if you're listening to nice, beautiful music like yoga music, let's say like Deva Premal, if anybody knows who that is, for example, that's really uplifting, and it's going to bring your spirits more into a sattvic state, meaning more of an optimal, balanced, open state, as opposed to, I don't know, listening to heavy metal or something. Not to put that down or anything, but to listen to something that's really jarring and dissonant. It's more what we would say tamasic in nature. So it's going to more pull you down and dull your senses. So everything that you choose can either enhance your senses. Ayurveda, we're looking for ways to enhance your senses. And every person is different because everybody is made up differently. So again, the essential oils that work for you and me might be different for somebody else.
Yeah, I studied nutrition at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and they use the term bio-individuality, which I think is what you're talking about too. You know, everything kind of works differently for different people, and I think that's why it's so important for it was so important for me to work with a coach and work with coaches to help me see, because I can't just, know that I'm going to read this keto book and know that it's right for me. I like to
Absolutely.
consult with a specialist like you, who can help me realize what my bio individual needs are.
Right, because it's so tempting to just jump on the next fad.
Right.
And keto could be great for one person and not so good for the next. Ayurveda generally encourages people to cook their food, but again, it's different for different body types.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give you an example, so a Vata body type, Vata is one of the doshas or constitutions,
I'm
and a
very
Vata
Vata, so tell me about the
yeah,
Vata.
yeah. So, and I have Vata in me as well. So we all have all three doshas, which are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, but we have ones that are more dominant. So a Vata person tends to run cold and dry. They tend to be light. And when we have cold weather, like right now, it's where I am, it's a little chilly. So we say in Ayurveda, the opposite creates balance.
Hmm.
So a warm, moist diet, especially when Vata is out of balance, is going to help to bring it back to homeostasis. So getting back to my point, so Ayurveda would recommend warm food, but I had a client once that she was Vata and she was eating the warm food, doing, and then she heard about somebody leading a class, like a 6 or multi-month class on raw food diet. So it was in the middle of winter, and she decided to eat nothing but raw food. Where raw food might be great for more of a kapha type of person in the summer, it's terrible for a vata person in the winter. So she started to feel very bad, very scattered and flighty and cold. So in other words, you don't want to just get excited. Oh, here's a raw food diet. This is going to be great and I should do this. You need to consider your personal tendencies, and working with a coach or Ayurvedic professional or somebody else that has experience can help you to tailor that, your diet, towards your individual needs and help you to determine, well, no, the keto or the paleo, that's not for you, but here's one that is. Or maybe that is good for you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really helpful because it's so easy for us to get excited about something and it's not a good fit. And then you make your imbalances worse and they go deeper.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. So wise. Something else that you kind of touched on that I wanted to speak more to was this idea in Ayurveda of seasonal eating.
Yeah, absolutely. So um, the doshas or constitution, which I mentioned, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, are based on the elements. And the elements we recognize in Ayurveda and yogic world are earth, air, water, fire, and ether. So, and each season has more elements that are particular elements that are more dominant. So, for example, in the summertime, the season of the fire element, and think of it, it's hot out.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to, do you remember I said opposites create balance? Mm. So in the summertime, if you were to eat hot, spicy salsa, and I'm just thinking of examples that are really heating, raw garlic, tequila, what else? All those you can recognize as pretty heating foods. Mm-hmm. Hot peppers. That's going to create more heat in your body. You already have heat in your body. Everybody has a little bit more heat in their body in the summer. For some people, depending on the dosha, that's more balancing. For others, not so much. But so if you're eating hot foods in the middle of summer when it's hot, it's getting that fire way too big, and it's going to create some imbalances. So if you ate with the season in the summer, for example, you would be eating more cooling foods, like whatever's in season. So think of what's in season during the summer. It's a lot of juicy fruits, which are very cooling, and carbohydrates that you need more of in the summer because we're more active. Things like cilantro and cucumbers and more of the greens that are all cooling in nature. So, and then, for example, in the winter, because the qualities that are more prevalent are cold and dry, then you'd want to eat, like I said earlier, warm and moist foods. Now we're coming into spring, and the qualities are typically, depending on what part of the world you live in, but more the elements that are prevalent are water and earth. What do you get when you combine water and earth?
Mud. Yeah.
So that tends to be more of, we mirror nature. Ayurveda is very nature based. So those elements tend to be more prevalent in us as well. So we want to eat foods that are a little bit more cleansing, like what is available in the spring and currently this season. So more roots and bitter greens, and those foods are more cleansing. So you would eliminate things like dairy and wheat, which are heavier because mud is heavy.
Yeah,
So
that
eating
makes
with
total
the
sense.
seasons. And we really recognize in Ayurveda 3 seasons. So there's, and it's not like it goes exactly, well, oh, here we have spring solstice coming up. Now it's spring. It's, more as the seasons start to shift. So we have spring, which goes from about now being, we're talking in March, till, maybe end of May, June-ish. And then you have summer, which goes all the way until end of September, maybe early October, where that heat element is more prevalent. Then you have winter that goes from maybe like November-ish, like early November, all the way until February, more or less, depending on what part of the world you live in. So you want to eat with the season, so the opposite creates balance.
And something else that we've talked on in this podcast, I spoke with a holistic pharmacist and some other coaches, and we talk about when you're trying to eat with the seasons, the value of a farmer's market. And I know where you are, you have some killer farmers markets. So that's kind of a nice way to be eating with the seasons. If you're shopping at the farmer's market and you're seeing what's there being offered, right? And then trying to make recipes at home that are, seasonal.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I recommend to all my clients. And I was just at my farmer's market yesterday morning. So, you can't go wrong especially if you're purchasing from local farmers versus somebody that drove 300 miles. But even that is better than just going to the grocery store. So you know that you're getting local produce. It's what's grown where you live. So it's going to be balancing for you. So that is one of the first steps versus trying to figure out, what do I eat for my particular dosha, which is an Ayurvedic practitioner I help my clients with. Step number 1 is eat with the season. How do you do that? Go to your farmer's market. How do you want to eat? Organic whenever possible, as fresh as possible, more whole foods. And shopping at the market and eating your veggies. And right now, when I went to the market yesterday, there were lots of beets out there, and broccoli, and so you get what grows locally versus buying something at the grocery store that was shipped in from, I don't know,
Chile or Mexico. Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's a different season there, different clients, so it's not going to be balancing for you.
It'll be balancing for them, right? Because, well, not so much Mexico, but if you're in Chile,
Yeah.
then you're in a different season, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, you want to just, if you can't find a veggie anywhere, it's because it's, at the market, at the farmer's market, it's because it's not in season. So just eat what you can find there.
Get creative. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
there's lots of Ayurvedic cookbooks out there as well.
And you touched on about cooking too. Something else I wanted to touch on that was eye-opening for me. I remember when I was studying yoga, I think this was an Ayurvedic tenet. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but like like you said, the best food is what you cook for yourself. The second best was like what your mother cooks for you or something like that, rather than like eating out. Of course, I enjoy eating out and I enjoy eating other people's food. But I definitely think over this past year too, I've been doing a lot more cooking for myself and for my family. And I've really enjoyed it, gotten creative and sort of built my confidence about what I can do at home.
Right. Right. And you can, yeah. So it's best if you can have home cooked meals, whether it's somebody in your family cooking it for you or you're cooking it, because you know what you're putting in there. And you want to say, you want to cook your food with love, because if you're one of the reasons with the restaurant, first off, you don't know, unless you're really are picky about your restaurants like I am, and you know that they cook with good, healthy oils and good fresh veggies, but you just don't know that. And so you don't know the attitude of the chef. What if he's in a bad mood? So whatever energy you are feeling, you're putting that into your food. So if you're feeling stressed and rushed and cooking, you're actually putting that into your food. So you want to cook in a relaxed manner and, feel joyful when you're cooking. And you can make it simple. I know a lot of people are intimidated by cooking. And if you told me 40, 30 years ago that I would be like really into cooking and people would ask me for my recipes and ask me to teach cooking, which I get all the time, I would be like shocked. So I was not into cooking when I was younger. But over the years, it becomes so rewarding because you feel better and you can be creative with it, like you said, but you can keep it simple. You don't have to subscribe to Bon Appetit, for example, and those recipes are kind of complex and they overwhelm me too. But I mostly keep it simple. I maybe steam some veggies or stir fry them lightly in ghee, which is clarified butter, which we consider very healthy food in Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is not necessarily vegetarian either. So most people think, oh, that means, again, as I said before, every body is different. Some people, it would be better for them, yes, to eat vegetarian. Other people, like Vadas that are out of balance, some meat, not a lot, but some meat is really helpful. So, for example, if you're a meat eater, broiling a chicken breast and stir frying some veggies, very easy to do, and you have a simple meal.
And very fresh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and very fresh.
Well, I know you've been talking about, how you help your clients, and I really appreciate the practical takeaways you've given us about cooking and farmers market and everything so far, and a little introduction to Ayurveda for our listeners who don't know much about it yet. So I was wondering if you had a story or stories about clients that you've worked with that have particularly inspired you.
Well, I was thinking about that. I have a lot of clients that I really have a lot of respect for because, Ayurveda, the path of Ayurveda, is super helpful and it's going to bring you balance. But it's not always easy for everybody because it's asking you to change sometimes lifelong habits. And I mean, the tools that Ayurveda gives you are very practical, actually. But again, if you habitually drink 3 cups of coffee in the morning, Ayurveda is not about coffee at all. And it might be a really hard habit to break, for example. So the clients that I really admire and just give me a lot of satisfaction to work with are the ones who actually take it seriously and really work to follow those steps. I will see some people that they'll come in and they find out what their dosha is and they're excited, but they just can't seem to make that leap into making lifestyle changes. Because Ayurveda we do work with herbs quite a bit, but it's not just by here's your herb, take your ashwagandha or whatever, and it's all good. about the herbs are an adjunct to, you need to shift this around. You need to sleep at these times or shift your diet or etc. So I think the clients that have taken it seriously and really worked to follow the leads I give them, the information that I give them, and they see a lot of changes. And then when they are healing and feeling better, it is so satisfying to me to see that. And so those are some of my favorite clients. So one of the clients I worked with, she had candida, and had been pretty bad for a long time. And we had to really work with their diet and with herbs, and she really followed it, and it changed everything for her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. I've seen clients and had friends who that was such a silent issue that I think people didn't even know was out there or causing problems.
yeah,
The candida, and I know that can take a big. I remember, just kind of protocols like no sugar, no fruit for a certain amount of time. It could be very
yeah,
hard, but then after a while you reintroduce it or whatever, but yeah, it's
yeah,
definitely
exactly.
a dedication, to, but then so I tell this story, it's in my podcast on the first episode about when I saw this friend of mine when I kind of first started to see a coach, and he was a little bit of everything. He wasn't necessarily Ayurveda, but he called himself a Chiologist, and he kind of talked about this whole idea of the candida and this diet and everything. And from the time I saw her, from within a couple weeks, she was like a different person. She was glowing.
Yeah.
I thought she was on some kind of medication. She was so happy and full of joy. And so that's what I think really triggered me to follow the path, or at least see the person, because it was like, wow, I know it was hard for her to make those changes at first, but I mean, what a difference in her life. And I know that she's, kept that up, just like, I have in my clients and things, that are being successful. It's like we keep it up, and wow, it's so worth it in the end.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Just it's good to get a little bit of success right away, because then it motivates you to keep it up. But with Ayurveda, like when I see clients, we work with them one step at a time. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot, as we talked about earlier, you work with all the five senses, but not all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's overwhelming, and nobody wants to make all these changes at once. I mean, most people get overwhelmed. So we just start with small baby steps. Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this week you're going to shop at the farmer's market.
Mm-hmm.
This week, maybe you'll stop eating after, no snacks after dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And, we just keep adding until, okay, you've got that mastered. Let's go on to the next step, so
Yeah.
that it's viable and doable. So one little step at a time.
Yeah, I know research definitely shows that like change is much more sustainable when you take it in those small chunks.
Yeah.
So kind of tied in with the Ayurveda and your offerings, can you tell us a little bit about Qigong? What is it, and how has it had a positive impact on your life?
Yeah, happy to. So about like 8, 9 years, 9, maybe 10 years ago now, I discovered Qigong. And I initially wasn't that interested in learning it, because I already had my yoga practice and everything else. But I actually had a horse trainer. So I have a horse and I ride. And he kept talking about Qigong, and about, he would use uh, like metaphors with Qigong when I was riding. And then he said that there was a well-known teacher coming to my area to offer a weekend workshop. And I wasn't interested. But then all of a sudden I shifted. I said, okay, I'm going to go.
Mm.
And that weekend really changed my life. It was interesting because I was very tired that weekend. I for whatever reason, wasn't sleeping well. But just doing these movements energized me in a way that yoga didn't. So let me back up for a second. Chi means energy, and Gong means working with it. So it's working with energy. And it's actually just very simple movements, mostly done standing. There's a component where you might be sitting. that are really accessible to most anyone. So somebody who doesn't feel like, oh, yoga intimidates them, or they might feel stiffer or dealing with injuries, the Qigong is doable in the most part. And it's really easy to modify. And it really gets that life force energy, which we call prana in yoga. It really taps into it very quickly. So you can feel that, and you can feel very vibrant very quickly from it. Basically, it works very quickly to reduce stress and to increase energy. Yeah, it taps you right into what I like to call that source energy within. Simple movements. So that's why I love it. And then I decided after taking that weekend workshop to do a teacher's training to get certified. So I did that, and I became a certified Qigong instructor like 8 years ago, I think. And so I teach a yoga class now where it's kind of a yoga Qigong combination class. That's really fun. Yeah. And then I also teach Qigong. So I was teaching more classes. Currently, with the time of COVID, I'm just teaching 2 a week right now. But I also teach online on Zoom on occasion. So.
Oh my gosh, I need to keep up with your mailing list on that, because I would love to take that online.
Yeah.
The next time you teach it.
Did that make sense? Did I explain it in a way that you follow?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I have a question about it though. What is the difference between Qigong and Tai Chi?
Okay. So, well, they both originate in China. Let me back up and just say, so Qigong originates in China, and it's based on Taoist philosophy, which is in some ways similar to yoga in that, to Ayurveda yoga, that nature-based, and we honor all the elements in nature and recognize that what is in nature is also within us. That's the same thing with Qigong. So we're working with those elements. Now, Qigong's been around for thousands of years, and Tai Chi actually developed from Qigong.
Okay.
So I like to call Qigong, in my mind, it kind of feels like a cross between Tai Chi and yoga. So the Tai Chi movements incorporate, you'll notice a lot of them are very similar or the same as some of the movements that you do in Qigong. But with Qigong, you can mix and match. You can put a practice together, just like you would do with yoga, with a number of different types of movements to work with whatever is up for you. For example, if you are working with stiff joints, you could do a practice that works and movements that target stiff joints. Or if you're dealing with anxiety, you can put a practice together with movements that help to alleviate anxiety. Where Tai Chi is more of a choreographed. So you have a set of movements that you do, but you learn these movements over a set period of time, and you always follow them in this. That's a simple explanation.
Maybe a parallel to like Ashtanga yoga, like how Ashtanga yoga has the primary series. It's like always the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example versus, doing a more eclectic practice. In my yoga teachings, I'm also very eclectic, where, you might do some yin and some restorative and then a little bit more vinyasa and mix it all in, depending on what you're looking for. So that's why I love the Qigong, because you can just change it up. And I did actually do a little bit of Tai Chi way back, but I liked it. But the Qigong just really, it shifts your energy quicker. You don't have to become an expert at it. I have beginners. People will come to one class and experience a tremendous shift and then become Qigong addicts.
Yeah. It sounds addicting.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to also say, so it works with the same principles as traditional Chinese medicine. Acupuncture, for example.
Okay.
So you're working with the meridians or the lines of energy in your body. So you're breaking up stagnant qi and opening it up so the energy can flow.
Oh, great. Thank you for explaining that so well. I had so many questions and I feel like I understand it a lot better now. So So I guess the last thing I'll ask was the one I was mentioning at the beginning about Yoga Nidra. So I'm not an expert,
Oh,
so I was hoping maybe you could share with my listener who doesn't know about it or is not familiar, what exactly is Yoga Nidra and how has it positively impacted you and your clients?
well, Yoga Nidra, loosely defined, would be the yoga of sleep. And the way I discovered it is one of my personal challenges is occasional insomnia. And so I discovered Yoga Nidras, I don't know, probably a dozen or so years ago. It's, as you know, it's a deeply guided meditation. And this particular type of guided meditation helps you to, you want to do it when you're actually awake. So it's not to put you to sleep, it's to put you into a state of a very relaxed state, but deeply aware at the same time. So you work with different parts of the body and the breath and visualization to bring an altered state to your mind. So it's almost like you're in a meditative state, but you're fully awake and fully aware. And they say that a 45-minute session of Yoga Nidra is equivalent to like 2.5 hours of sleep. So if you're stressed or you're experiencing occasional bouts of insomnia, to do a Yoga Nidra, whether if you do it in the middle of the night or as a break in your day, will help to refresh you. And on a deeper level, when you're doing that and you're coming into such a deep, relaxed and receptive state, receptive to that source energy, you are promoting healing in your body. So it helps to heal whatever, imbalances you may have going on, even deeper ones as well. I just know when I do Yoga Nidra, like for example, you said you did it today, I feel like so refreshed afterwards, like I just did get a little bit of sleep. But it's doing more than that. It's bringing some deep healing to your body.
I guess it was the right thing for me. It was what I thought to do, just kind of intuitively today. And yeah, like I said, I don't have my headache anymore, and I didn't sleep a lot last night, but I do feel great right now. So I think it really helped me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and there's lots of I do Yoga Nidra for groups or for individuals, but there's lots of apps out there right now,
mm-hmm,
Insight Timer and Calm, that have guided Yoga Nidras. Some
mm-hmm,
of them are excellent. Some of them, they're okay. But you want to look for one that isn't distracting with lots of background music or whatnot. Something that really allows you just to tap deeply in and try and stay awake while you're doing it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's key, like the consciousness, I guess, element, right, of still being awake.
Right, because it helps you to drop into that super consciousness
mm-hmm.
versus your everyday da 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 da. It's like a little vacation for your mind and your
Yeah.
body.
Nice. Yeah, I think we could all use a vacation right about now,
Yeah,
huh?
absolutely.
Well, you shared so many wonderful takeaways for our listeners. I was wondering if you had any extra practical takeaways that you wanted to add before we say goodbye.
Yeah, I think, well, we touched on a lot of them, but we talked about eating fresh whole foods. And another thing is to have regular meal times.
Mm.
And because the body likes routine, the mind might not like it, but the body likes it. So regular meal times, think about having lunch be your largest meal of the day. It's counter in the West, people find that counterintuitive, but it's actually the most balancing way to eat is to have lunch be your larger meal and to try and finish dinner by sunset, not snacking. So those are big anchors in life. Going to bed around 10-ish, waking up at 6. So in Ayurveda, we follow the natural rhythms, the circadian rhythms. And so, because as I said, we are one with nature. We're made of the same thing. So we want to follow those rhythms of nature That's going to bring us the most balance. So eating regular times, getting good sleep, and let's see what else. Getting some fresh air, trying to meditate, trying to learn some form of meditation to bring that into your life each day, getting exercise. Those are some basic tools. And just like you said before, shopping at the farmer's market.
Yeah. I've spoken on this podcast too about how I guess it was the idea of intermittent fasting to me, but it doesn't really seem like it's that like the same thing. I mean, I guess it is, but like trying to eat my dinner by like 6 o'clock. Like you said, I go to bed at 10, I wake up at 6, and then
Right.
maybe I don't. The one big change was not eating like right when I wake up, waiting until about 10 o'clock to have like a snack or whatever. But I've really seen changes in my body since I've been doing that. And I think it was this idea of intermittent fasting, but it really did is it just put me on more of a routine, like what you're talking about, so
Right.
that my body knew what to expect when. And I think I was giving myself a little bit more of a rest between, like you said, not snacking after dinner, like
Yeah.
giving my hormones and my body a rest from like the insulin spikes and whatnot. And I've seen a lot of hormonal issues that I've had resolved since I've been doing that over the past
No,
about
that's
3 months.
excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Well,
been
you
really
think of
helpful.
it, think of the word breakfast, break, fast. So Ayurveda, we say to finish, like you said, eating around 6, 7 o'clock. And then if kitchen is then closed and you don't eat again until 7, 8, and you're doing more of the true fasting if you're waiting till 10, but even waiting till like 8, let's say you finish eating at 6:30 and then having your breakfast at 7:30 the next morning, that's 13 hours right there. And that gives your body a chance to do all the functions it needs to do at night. So you get a little mini fast. And
Yeah.
some doshas do better with longer fasts, some short.
Yeah, like you said, bio-individuality. Great.
Exactly.
So Holly, it's been such a treat chatting with you. I would love to share with my listeners how they could find you and what you're
Wonderful.
up to.
Okay, great. Well, I have a website. It's balancedlivingayurveda.com, and it has information about everything I do. And email is holly@balancedlivingayurveda.com. So that's how you can find me. And I have my phone numbers listed on the website, et cetera, as well. And also, so as I mentioned, I do Ayurvedic consults, and I do them in person and, of course, on Zoom. And on the website, it's all the details of my consults on the website. And the Qigong and yoga are mostly live, but on occasion I do them on Zoom, as well as maybe more extended Ayurvedic workshops. And I'm really excited to share with your listeners that I have a retreat that I'm co-leading to Panama in December. And my fingers are crossed that we can all travel in December. And it's going to be a yoga, Qigong, and Ayurveda retreat. It's to a beautiful tropical location in a semi-rural beach in Panama. And it's a luxury resort, but it's really tiny. So we'll have it to ourselves, and they cook gourmet meals for us. Healthy, delicious, fresh, local for all 3 meals. And then we'll be doing lots of yoga, Qigong, and other discoveries. So if you're interested in that, I also have a tab with information on my website, which says retreats.
Excellent. I did a little investigating before the podcast, and I saw the pictures and the things you've done in the past, and it looks really exciting. So the pictures are beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm co-leading it with a woman, a friend of mine who owns a yoga studio. Her name is Annie Sagards, and she's an amazing person and a great teacher as well. So it's nice when there's 2 of us because we can really give you lots of attention.
Killer team. Awesome. And I'll also link your social media in the show notes too.
Sure.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Holly, for chatting with us today.
It's so fun to chat with you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I always say to my guests, until next time, I look forward to the next time we get to chat.
Wonderful. Me too.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
To learn more about today's guest and a wide range of other wellness professionals, please visit our global wellness community at welvil.com. WELVIL.com. I look forward to meeting you next time on the road to Welvil.